Or are we living through the death of the UK?
All empires fall in the end, but this is not the best place to live anymore.
The NHS is partially in such a state because of all the lockdowns and all the mess that caused. Government spending, that 500 billion he sprayed all over the place. Boris just opening his pockets and just spraying it everywhere like he does in his personal life.
They're going to create opportunity, Harry. And that's what entrepreneurs do, they find the opportunity.
So you've been in business together 17 years.
Wow.
That's longer than most marriages.
You know, be good at different things. I don't know, you're not going to sweat the small stuff.
This is the 7th anniversary episode of Disruptors. I have my business partner, Mark Homer. Mark developed this entire 125,000 square foot building that we're sat on top of. We're on the roof on the 4th floor, 99 apartments, 159 tenants. This is a very special episode. 7 years, nearly 1,000 episodes. And I thought no one better to have a good discussion and debate about all things business and money as my introverted, behind the scenes business partner, Mark Homer. And I'm Rob Moore, host of Disruptors. And this is Harry, head producer, who's also interviewing us today. We're 7 years and 1,000 episodes into this journey. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of money. So if you'd love to support the show and help us grow and get amazing guests, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn the notification bell on.
Gentlemen, thanks for joining me. What is the current state of the UK?
So in the UK at the moment, we've got lots of problems, haven't we? Strikes and ambulances not turning up. And civil servants not at work, but I'm not sure anybody notices that, do they? So we're sort of carrying on as usual. I think clearly the main issue has been broken supply chains because of lockdowns and loads of inflation, around 10%, but it looks like it's falling. Government likes to say that's the war in Ukraine. I think the reality is that they printed over £800 billion worth of QE, which quite a lot of it found its way into the money supply, even though they might not want to talk about that. Went into furlough and lots of other grants and schemes, which has generated inflation. Of course, the Bank of England didn't get in front of it. They didn't raise interest rates soon enough, quick enough, and you know, by enough. So maybe to some extent you could say they were having to stay within the fold and do to some extent what the US and Europe were doing, but they've been too slow to get those rates up. So we're in a place now where debt's out of control. The government spending is going up and up. Clearly taxation is at eye-watering levels and set to get worse. And somebody needs to come along and fix it. And I don't think that's Rishi Sunak or Keir Starmer.
Yeah, I think the UK is the worst I've seen it, and I'm 44 years old. As an entrepreneur, innovating and disrupting and employing more than 100 people, you've got 20% VAT, now 25% Corp Tax, 45% income, national insurance, all these various little stealthy taxes, business rates, all of this racks up. And then what you purchase, I wouldn't be surprised if 2/3 to 3/4 of what the average solo entrepreneur, small business owner spends and earns is tax. There's too many people in government, there's too many civil servants, there's too much red tape around the tax code, which just takes, what was it, Chris? Our accountant says 12,000 pages, I don't know, but 1,000. Why not just have a flat rate? It's just...
It gets worse and worse, and they have this office for tax simplification, and loads and loads of sort of members of the government over the years have said, oh, we need to simplify tax, we need to make it easier, and the opposite happens. It just gets more and more complicated, more and more layers of new taxes, reliefs removed. And it plays right into the hands of clever accountants, which you end up paying tens of thousands to just to understand how much tax you should be paying.
I mean, we have quite a big finance department, and most of their time they're not working on our finances, they're working on VAT returns and tax returns, and essentially we pay for them for the government to collect the money. So I don't understand why we can't have a simpler system, a flatter rate, a more fair rate. Lockdown. Look, controversial subject, but in my opinion, I'm just going to say it how it is. I think that the consequences of lockdown, I said this pretty much at the time, are going to be way worse in the long run in what the lockdown saved us from. Think of all the effect of the economy. Think of all the hundreds of billions spent, wasted, maybe. You speak to entrepreneurs and business owners in Britain and they're all pissed. They're moving to Dubai. They're looking at places where they can go and find somewhere where the tax is more fair, where the security is better. You go, everyone's talking about the crime in London. I don't even know where we stop, Harry, because I've only just started on the state of the UK. It's a real shame to me, like how the royal family's been ruined by Andrew and Harry. I mean, where do you want us to stop? What do you think about Prince Harry?
I think Prince Harry is a disgrace. He's turned his back on his family. He's a turncoat, and he's outed a lot of their secrets, which I would have thought probably the most central code that they would have, and that he would have always been brought up with, is confidentiality, and he was sort of brought into that system. Extremely privileged, went to the best schools, and surrounded by the best people, and now whenever he walks in a room, everybody wants to please him, and he's got all these titles still, and yet he seems to rail against all that and say that's the reason he's so unhappy, and the royal family have done all this sort of terrible stuff to him. What about him? What about what he's able to offer, instead of just whinging about what they haven't done for him? I think he's a disgrace, and really at the heart of it, he's trying to make money, isn't he? Apparently he's made 100 million out of sort of all of these.
Spotify deal, tens of millions. Netflix, tens of millions. The book, the world record for sales. I mean, you could say he's a good marketer.
You could, but there's a line, isn't there? He's very, very disappointed with him, and my view of him has shifted a little bit. I mean, initially I just thought he was sort of pussy whipped. I thought Meghan had got hold of him, twisted his brain, he'd lobotomized him, and promised him who knows what, she basically got her hand up his bottom and was operating like a puppet. I think Jeremy Clarkson came out with that one, and he got into a bit of trouble, but I can probably say it. That was my initial view, and I think that's true to some extent. But I'm listening to his book at the moment. Doesn't mean I necessarily agree with it, but
outrageous, Mark. You're perpetuating it.
I'm finding it quite interesting. I mean, there's some absolute nonsense in there. I mean, we've just got to this bit about him being racist on this video, and using the P word on this video to describe one of his friends, in one of his sort of military friends or military colleagues when they're going on tour. And this video went viral, and everyone came out and said, "Oh, Harry's not learnt anything from the Nazi sort of episode when he went out with the Nazi uniform on." And he swears blind for a couple of minutes in this book that he didn't know what that word meant, didn't realise that it was offensive. And I thought, you grew up when I grew up, mate, and we went to not a completely dissimilar school, and we knew that was definitely a naughty word. So if he's lying about that, what else is he lying about? Loads of stuff. I think he's twisted stuff. I suspect he's misremembered some of it, but some of it's very convenient. There's apparently a ghostwriter has written the book, and I'm sure they're sort of milking him, and the publisher's saying, we need more, and that's going to be 2 million less, and let's just stick the real juice in, and that feels like what happened with Oprah, what happened with Netflix.
This thing about we just want to go to America and hide and be safe and secure, and I want to protect my family. We'll go on Oprah, we'll go on Corded, we'll launch a book, we'll go on Netflix. I mean, what? At least if he's transparent.
I think some of it is also sibling rivalry. He's obviously always been the spare, sort of second fiddle to his brother, because his brother was, he's going to be king. I think this is his way of sort of, in some ways, getting his own back. And maybe the tonic, was Meghan coming along and sort of, he's been a bit upset with maybe what his brother said and his reaction. And this is his way of sort of, beating his brother, which is pretty sad, really. But
it's
you know,
sad.
all the media's gone for it. The public's buying it. I've bought the book, so you're right. I'm complicit.
Yeah,
yeah.
You're feeding
So,
the beast, Mark. I
I've,
refuse to listen to that book.
I've sent him £1.50. You know, and he's.
Oh, you got it cheap, did you?
Well, I put it on Audible. I think it's a little bit cheaper.
Use your credit. At least use your credit.
Yeah. So yeah, he's doing it for the 100 million, isn't he?
Yeah.
You know, and the disloyalty to his family is.
Well, he threw his dad under the bus on
Yeah.
Oprah.
Oh.
He's thrown his son under the bus. All while his nan's just died. I mean, what did she go through?
Hey, quick one. Would you like to start a business, scale a business, create multiple streams of income, get better financial education and knowledge, build a personal brand, monetize social media, work from home, create a side hustle? If you'd like any of that, go join my members area, rob.team. You can cancel anytime with no contract. Learn, earn, invest, build multiple streams of recurring income, digital assets, quicker, easier and cheaper, Zoom masterclasses, live event meetups, Ask Me Anything lives, exclusive content that we can't put on YouTube because it's too controversial. It's all at rob.team for less than a large coffee. Go join now at rob.team.
You know, you said about their confidentiality.
Yeah.
One thing both you and I have really respected about the Queen and the royal family,
Yeah.
never complain and never explain the grace, the humility, the strength of the Queen and
Yeah.
the royal family. Never complain, never explain. All he's fucking doing is complaining and explaining.
That's all he does.
He's doing the opposite.
And I know he likes to say that, oh, well, they say it's never complain and never explain, but all the stories you see about, or a lot of the stories you see about the royal family are planted and twisted by them and their sort of press office or press officer, which, you know, maybe they do plant some stories. But I suspect the negative stories about Harry and Meghan, the vast majority of them, are just created by the media. Of course the media lie. They're telling packs of lies on a daily basis, but you don't need to blame all of that on your brother and your dad. You know, maybe their press officer's been trying to push them forward a bit and get them more publicity, and maybe Camilla said the odd sort of crossword, but do you really think they want to create all of this? I suspect he's losing a grip on reality, and Meghan's certainly sort of facilitating that mind bending that seems to be going on.
Was that the answer you wanted, Harry?
That was, yeah, the answer I wanted. Okay.
I could talk all day about the state of the UK, but...
Or are we living through the death of the UK?
Well, all empires fall in the end. Even the great Roman Empire fell in the end. If you look back through history, I love Ray Dalio's take on this, and I've consumed most of his content, and he looks back through all the empires that grew and fell. He believes the dollar and the US are the next empire to fall, and maybe China is the big new empire. So I suppose you could say through natural evolution, the British Empire was going to fall in the end. It's just a shame it happened while we were in the middle of it, why we got to see it for real. But this is not the best place to live anymore, and costs are so high. We're one of the highest taxing nations out there. Our GDP future is really low, lower than some of the less developed European countries. I can't really see any upside being here. All right, the legal system's pretty good. You're glad you're not in Romania and you're Andrew Tate, because the Romanian legal system, it's a bit more rough and ready. So legally here it's quite good, it's quite safe. Security used to be good, but apparently the crime in London's really bad now. Yeah, I think the British Empire has gone, and I think we're just crumbling. I suppose in some ways it's good that you can be global now. You know, our business is local in the UK for seminars and events, but much of it is global. You know, our podcast, our YouTube channel, etc. People buy my books all over the world. But yeah, it's a weird time to be alive.
So this recession seems different from 08. Would you agree or disagree?
This recession is very different from 08. I don't think it's as deep. You know, the banks are still, you know, to a large extent, they're still lending. It's a different issue. There's different ingredients, so a different cake gets baked. You know, this time it's been an issue of, they thought, consumer spending falling off a cliff because energy prices go up and a lot of the consumer durables and food goes up so much. But I think what's probably happened is people have still got reserves because they were given so much cash during the pandemic. So consumer spending hasn't fallen off a cliff in the way that we thought it was going to. Travel is still booming. Still, loads of people are still travelling, clearly because they couldn't. But people need cash to do that, and so I think it's an indicator that there's probably more cash around than we thought maybe there was going to be. Unemployment is still very, very low, probably because a lot of people have been taken out of the employment market. So of course, if you take 1.2 million people out of the people who are looking for work, then the number of unemployed goes down hugely. But that's a sort of statistic which keeps wages growing, wage growth, which is obviously generally a good thing as long as it doesn't feed too much into inflation, which it is at the moment because it's so high. Carries on, and the recession's not as sharp as maybe you would imagine. Interest rates have gone from 0.5% to 3.5%. I thought that would have a bigger effect, but I don't know. The market seems to be wearing it, which means they're probably going to have to go higher because, yes, inflation will start falling, but it'll probably sit around 4 or 5%, and it may just get stuck there. So they're going to have to push interest rates up even more to get it down to 2% again. 2008 was so different because there were more bankruptcies, there were more companies going bust because they were running out of money. They couldn't get liquidity from banks. People were, the wholesale lending market seized up in 2008. So banks couldn't, the banks that were getting their money from the markets to lend out rather than their depositors got into real trouble. So we haven't got those issues. They're very, very different issues. But Rob's point about the tail end effects of this, I think, are very true. I think
it's going to be a lot longer.
Go on a long time.
I think there could be a decade of, at least, of implication of things like Brexit and lockdown. And think of the cost of the vaccines, the lockdown, the furlough, the track and trace app, the debt repayment, all of these things. I think it could go on and on and on. And all of these things, like furlough, etc., that are paid to support, they cost so much money, and in the end they kick the can down the road of what the issue is. So my view is a bit more bearish. I think there could be many years of
anemic growth. I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Just stagnation.
Yeah.
Just slightly, just bumbling, bouncing on the bottom. I think that's what's like to happen. I mean, all the overhang of the lockdowns. You look at the NHS, which is just sucks more. It doesn't matter what you throw at it; it's not got enough money. It just sucks more and more money. And
it's like a Lamborghini Aventador, it's a money pit.
It doesn't matter what they throw at the NHS; it spends more and more. And yes, all right. We've got the sort of, if you think of the bell curve, you've got a huge load of people born after the Second World War. You can understand why. Now they're getting old. They're out of the employment market. They're drawing pensions. They're using the NHS. So some of this is that the baby boomers are now getting old, and there's probably less younger people proportionally to support, all of those. Whereas when those guys were working, clearly there were less older people in proportion to people of a working age. So there is that, as part of all this, and we shouldn't forget that. But I think that, the NHS is partially in such a state because of all the lockdowns and all the mess that caused. If you look at the sort of excess death rate now, it's actually worse than it was in the pandemic. So what is the effect of what has been the effect of all these lockdowns in terms of increased instances of cancer now because it wasn't treated during the lockdowns? All of those extra people who have suicides have gone up. All of those people who are got other ailments, other issues. Apparently, a huge number of these 1.2 million people who are not working now. A massive number on incapacity benefit or some sort of benefit because they're sick, long COVID or whatever it is, because the NHS didn't treat them at the time. I suspect partially because of lockdown. You've got so many effects of lockdown. That's just the NHS. Then there was all the furlough. Then there was all this, other sort of government spending, that 500 billion he sprayed all over the place. Part of it was Boris and Rishi.
Of all the debt.
I mean, yeah, all just during that pandemic. Boris just opening his pockets and just spraying it everywhere like he does in his personal life. He's part of him and Rishi were a big part of the problem.
And what was the reward for Rishi for all this? Oh, Prime Minister.
Right, it's interesting what you said, Rob, before about we could be moving into a lost decade. I think the last lost decade we had was in the 1970s. Do you think that this could be even worse or the same as that?
Well, I think that I can't predict the future. And what you have with economies and governments and banks and central governance is they can react. So something can happen and they can stop it by tweaking printing of money up, or controlling interest rates and inflation, or furloughs, so we think we know what's going to happen based on where we're at today, but we don't know how then the government and the central governance will react to protect. So I can't say for sure that there's going to be a massive depression and a lost decade. I just think that the implications of lockdowns and vaccines, billions, trillions spent, it's all got to come from somewhere, and it's going to be tax. And the more tax you have, the less money you have. And the more inflation there is, the less money you have. And the more debt there is, the less money you have. And I think that's all going to feed out. It's also going to create opportunity, Harry. And that's what entrepreneurs do. They find the opportunity.
Love it. And Mark, how do we fix this?
I suppose
Complete overhaul of the political system would be a good one.
I suppose what goes to the root of this is our system of voting in this country, our electoral system. So it's first past the post. So in any constituency, people vote for an MP, and then the party with the most MPs usually forms a government. So you can have a situation where a party which got more votes actually doesn't get to form the government, just because we don't run a system of proportional representation. So I wonder if the issue is with first past the post, it's always just going to favour the two incumbent parties. So you're going to have the sort of Labour Conservative pass the parcel, as we have done for many, many decades. And it probably needs something completely new to come along, a new set of people. I was quite excited actually when Liz Truss came along. A lot of her ideas were Thatcherite, sort of smaller state, lower tax,
economic growth focus.
Economic growth and reduced spending. When she said it all during her election campaign, I didn't believe any of it. But that Friday, when she announced it all, I was like, oh my God, she actually is going to do this stuff. So I was really heartened, I was really excited. The problem was she didn't have the right people around her, including the Chancellor, who I think ended up to be pretty poor, to execute it properly. She tried to hit it all with a sledgehammer, do it far too quickly. I think she didn't get the OBR in to get it all signed off. And I don't think she explained it or articulated it properly. I think probably because she was not capable. She wasn't really an orator, a little bit like Theresa May, quite wooden. Unfortunately, what's at the sort of at the root of what we're moaning about now is she's probably put that movement to bed for a number of years. I don't want to say decades, because it makes me feel so bad just thinking that, her sort of ilk, those people that want higher growth, want lower taxes, want smaller government, have been sort of consigned to the scrap heap for a number of years, because as soon as they come along, anyone in the sort of party in power will sort of go, oh, remember what happened to Liz Truss? We can't try that. The public, you saw what the markets thought of that, we saw what the public thought of that, that won't work. But of course, it would have worked if it had been explained in the right way. It needed to be explained in a more stealthy way. You probably noticed with politicians, when they want to put tax up, they don't say they're putting taxes up. They sort of put taxes up but make it look like something else and explain it in a different way. I think you needed a bit of that with what the problem was she told the truth.
National insurance.
Yeah, well,
that's a tax.
It's just nonsense.
It's just spin.
It's complete nonsense. Yeah.
What pisses me off is that we didn't have the choice about Liz Truss. We didn't have the choice about Rishi. So we have to sit in this country and just watch all these clowns ruin it, and we don't even get a choice.
The problem,
there is no democracy. It doesn't exist.
I'm going to be quite controversial now, but the problem at the root of this, in addition to the other two things I've just mentioned, I think is that you've got more people in this country. I think it came out last week, something like 55% of households take out more than they put in. And there's over a third of the working population are not working. They're doing something else. Now, all right, some people are long-term sick, but you can't tell me that even the majority of those people shouldn't be working. They should be. And in addition to that, if you look at how many people are working out of our population versus not working, more are not working than are working. So if you sort of think about it in those terms, and then you think about democracy, who are those people going to vote for?
Yeah.
They're going to vote for the people...
Socialism!
Well, they're not going to be voting for people that are going to give them less, are they?
No.
So, as much as I'll be chastised for saying democracy isn't the best system, because usually it is the best system, there are some serious flaws, and I think that's sort of at the basis of it. Somebody needs to come in and sort the welfare system out and get the country back to work.
Yeah.
1.2 million people have taken early retirement because of COVID, because they've got into the sort of habit of furlough, not working. All the sort of Boris just opened his pockets up and sprayed it everywhere, and all those people have got addicted to living in a non-productive way and taking from the state. And I know they're looking at ways of maybe giving them a year's worth of no income tax if they come back to work and various things like that. And they need to get on and do this stuff. Bit of carrot and then a lot of stick as well. But nobody seems to be able to do that. And Rishi's just, more of the same, isn't he? He's, him and sort of Hunter, high tax. Rishi designed the furlough system, didn't he? He's a sort of centre-left politician, like a social democrat type, that believes in higher tax, bigger state, probably higher taxes than Labour. I mean, it's just bizarre, the situation we're in.
Yeah. Solutions, Harry, I think, it's got to be focused on growth. You can't inflate our way out of this, which they're trying to do, because you just devalue all of our money. You can't borrow your way out of this, which they keep doing, because that's unsustainable. Growth is the solution, but we don't have anyone in the government that wants to focus on growth. So
growth comes from new businesses and growing businesses. Small businesses supply...
Attracting capital into the UK, subsidising and incentivising innovation and startups.
All of that stuff, and it's small business and medium business that drives all of this, and drives all the taxes that are generated.
But they're taxing the fuck out of us.
But they're taxing the hell out of the small businesses, the medium-sized businesses. In fact,
that's because they're
the
easy to get the money from.
That's
they
true.
Can't get them from Amazon, so they get them from the small business.
Absolutely. So they tax the hell out of the part of the economy,
the
engine that grows your way out. So what do entrepreneurs, what do people who are running businesses think? Do you know what? I might just clear off to Dubai, where they don't want to charge me all this stuff. There's going to be a brain drain. I've seen it already. Loads. People are starting to clear off, and loads of people I'm talking to are saying, do you know what? I might just be better basing my business online and clearing off. And you'll just see more and more of it. And that just perpetuates the whole thing. Even less growth, even less tax take, and a bigger problem.
So, something that a lot of people say, which I don't think people understand, is how you've got to tax the rich more. But there's rich and there's super rich. Now, apparently if you earn more than £75,000 a year, you're rich, which you're not, certainly not with inflation. So let's say someone who's rich has made £1 million or created $1 million in turnover. That's not really rich, that's small rich. The rich is the super rich. So why don't they tax the middle and new rich a lot less, which is where most of the economy is coming from, 5 million small businesses. Why don't they tax them less? And why don't they just take 5% more off the trillionaires and Amazon and Google I'll tell you why, because they're in their freaking pocket.
You're beginning to sound like one of those socialists.
I am not a
If it's in the middle band, so I can have lower taxes if they get charged more. Yeah, but this is
Do
how
you
it
think
goes.
it's fair, though?
This is how it starts. No,
No.
because they would say the same about.
Who would?
Well, the super rich would say, I think you should take it off the middle band because I'm not in it and I've got to pay that.
Well, no, I know billionaires. I've interviewed many billionaires who love paying tax and think that they want to pay more tax.
They say that on these videos, Rob. They say that on your video, but they don't mean it. When you see how they behave, which is often very different from what they say.
This is the problem with the political system, because they're getting all the donations and they're getting their money and all the power from all the big, I don't want to say the names of the companies, but all the big companies. So, imagine how many trillions they would generate if they just got 5% extra corp tax off Google, Amazon, Facebook. Apparently they're not really getting any corp tax.
They do need to collect it. They definitely...
5% more?
Yeah. They don't need to be increasing the headline rate, but they need to be
that's not
better.
what I said.
They need to be better at collecting it, definitely.
Because one thing I've always said is, when people say, Google pays no tax, it's not true. VAT, if they do draw income, there'll be income. They pay national insurance, all the employers. So they pay billions in tax.
Business rates.
Yeah, all of that.
Duty on all the vans.
So I don't want
fuel.
these companies restricted, but it's the corp tax that they avoid by going into Ireland or whatever. So if the corp tax rate is 25 and we're paying 25 and they're paying nothing because they can, run their business in Ireland because they're pocketing and funding a lot of the campaigns, that's wrong. And I'm sure Google and Amazon and Facebook, etc., and all the other companies I haven't named, and I'm not criticising them, I'm sure they wouldn't mind paying 5% corp. And by the way, if we could pay 0% corp, we would. We can't, because we're not them. So they're getting it wrong, because everyone who's rich, who's getting attacked, is anyone who earns from 75 grand up to a zillion. Whereas they need to subsidise, incentivise, reward people for starting them. Why would you start a business in the UK now? Oh, your VAT's going to be 20, your corp's going to be 25, your income's going to be 45 once you start earning a bit. You've got national insurance, you've got business rates, you've got all this money on date. We get fined all the time for this, that and the other, late payment this, data issues this. It's just, they've just got so many ways of finding you and tax you. Why would you even start a business in? So how can the economy grow if businesses can't start? Anyway, next question.
So you've been in business together 17 years.
Wow.
That's longer than most marriages. So what's the secret?
I think you've got to have sort of, be good at different things. So you've got your area. If Rob sort of, there's a decision to make in Rob's area, I just sort of stand back and he even if I don't agree with his decision, he makes it, and vice versa. He's good enough to sort of let me make decisions in my areas, and he sort of stands back. I think in addition to that, you've just got to be really sort of, you've not got to sweat the small stuff, and you've just got to see your sort of relationship as a very much a long-term thing, and not be too. Rob's probably more giving than I am, which is I think a great trait in him, and you've got to be when there's an issue or you think the other one's done something wrong or whatever. Well, it would be both of us. You've not got to sweat it too much, and you've just got to sort of let it ride over you.
It was very nice of Mark to say I'm more giving than him, but he is more careful than I, and so therefore he helps me in a lot of things which I'm rubbish at. Insurances, managing expenses, cost controls, etc. He's really good at. So I'd echo what Mark said. You've got to be good at different things. I was coaching one of our clients yesterday, and there's two of them. They're related. And one of them's been out of the business for 2 years, and actually the business has improved and he wants to get back in. And the other one's saying, no, it's improved. And you piss me off when you come back into the business. We end up doing the same thing. Go and do something else. So you should do different things, not the same thing. That's definitely one. I think what a lot of people do in partnerships is they look at what the other person is doing and, you should be doing more. You're not doing the right thing. Look at what you're doing. Focus on being great at you, and they'll be great at them. I definitely agree with not sweating the small stuff, because there's big stuff and small stuff, and life can just chuck you a load of small stuff that's not important, so try not to sweat that. Have a very long-term vision. Be in a business that you're passionate about, but have a very long-term vision, because property, the longer you're in it, the more money you make. And it's quite cool. We have this little hack, right, that no one else does that I know, but we share cars.
Yeah.
And we've got, like with this Porsche coming now, I think that's 6 or 7. If you put the wife's Range Rovers in it, that's like 7 cars. It might be 8 when I've looked at that Aston Martin, it won't. But we might get that 911, the one that we looked at yesterday.
Is that the DB9?
No, the V8 Vantage, 1985.
Oh, the same one from Tom Hartley, the one in yellow.
Yeah, no, not
old
that
Bond
one.
car.
It's better than that. I'll show you.
They're
Anyway,
gorgeous,
we're looking at a 911 turbos, but we share the cars, so it's half the cost. And also, it's great having an Aventador, but it's a bit of a pain in the ass. And just as it's pissing you off, Mark gets it, and he has it, and he's like, I haven't had this for a few weeks. This is great. And as soon as it's pissing him off, it comes back to me. Because Mark knows what I'm like, and if it were me, I'd be buying and selling cars every 6 to 12 months because I get bored of them. But we've built up this little collection. So sharing things, you know, we don't do it yet really with watches, but we help each other with, Mark helps me with property, I help with watches, but we should share watches and share stuff, you know, share stuff.
So it's kind of like a marriage then?
Well, in many ways
Yeah.
it is, yeah.
Yeah.
By design, or did it just happen?
I think it evolves, doesn't it? It evolves.
I've not known any other business partnership like that. A lot of business partners, they're 50-50, but they're not sharing cars. They're not like what you guys are.
Well, also, they fuck each other over.
Yeah, they
Like, I know someone at the
continuously-
moment, and they're two partners, they've been in business 15 years, they're just fucking each other over. You know, we all make mistakes and none of us are perfect, but just don't fuck each other over.
So why have you never fucked each other over?
Why would I fuck Mark over? Like, he's built all this. I'd be the biggest idiot ever. Also, who's going to insure my cars? Who's going to look after my expenses? Who's going to advise me on stock? Why would I want to fuck Mark over? Like, I don't really have it in me. I make mistakes. I don't really have it in me to fuck someone over. But like, I like the fact that most of the time I do good in business and make good money. And I like giving him half. It's like making money on your own with no one to share it with, it's not really that exciting. I'd rather make double and give half away.
So when you
Why haven't you fucked me over? You're not that sort of person. are
No,
you?
why would you do that?
Yeah.
I mean, it just, you know, you're creating value together and you're both contributing. Why would you want to destroy a load of value, destroy a relationship that you've built? You know, the longer the relationship you've had, the more you've sort of gained together, so you've got even more to lose. It doesn't help your wealth, it doesn't help your happiness, it does if you're in business with somebody you don't like and somebody who's an idiot and somebody who's robbing from you, but we haven't got that problem, so it's completely counterproductive in every way.
Also, if something went wrong and lawyers got involved, what? I mean, both of us don't really
Well, they
like
just
lawyers.
take they just take millions,
Yeah, they
and we get
And
fucked.
wind us up.
We just get fucked. Yeah.
So when you guys started back in the day, what, you were 26, 27, something like that, and now
25 and 20.
Yeah, I've
no.
got a year
Oh
on
yeah,
Mark.
no, you're right. Yeah, I was
you were-
26. You were 27.
I
Yeah.
just turned,
Yeah.
I was 26, just turning 27.
So you're in your late 20s, mid 20s, and now you are experienced, battle-hardened veterans. You've
Grey
lived
hairs,
and invested
wrinkles.
and built businesses through crashes, and everything what we have right now. And when we were talking about recession, inflation, interest rates, it didn't really seem to bother you guys. Are you at a point now where you're so experienced, you kind of just roll with it and nothing cripples you?
Well, it's quite. I used to get more worried than I do now. I mean, clearly during lockdown, when the training business got shut down and all the staff got sent home, that was, for me, that was a majorly worrying time. But, as I saw all the warnings of inflation and interest rates going up, I sort of thought, well, I've seen all this before. We were there in 2008 when the banks stopped lending, seen all that before. Yes, energy bills started going up. I haven't had that before, but I sort of thought, well, we can weather it. What's the worst case scenario? I sort of do a big quick fag packet, we can weather that. Once you've seen the more you've seen, the more you've been in business, the more recessions, the more bad stuff you've seen, the less it affects you when it comes along, because you realise that, Usually it's not as bad as the media make out, or as bad as the predictions, because of course they need to make it look bad to sell newspapers, or whoever's writing a report needs to get you to read it, so they make it look worse to justify the fee. But in addition, you know, over time, when one thing gets worse, one door closes, usually another opens. You know, in the 08 recession, banks stopped lending. You know, property values dropped 30%. The positive side was there were deals galore. You know, you could go out, you could buy stuff, you could make money out of developing it into something else. You get huge uplift like that. You know, and the yields were much, much higher once we went into the recession. You know, this time during the pandemic, there are, you know, lots of sort of negatives, but rents are absolutely soaring. You know, so the cash flow is not necessarily going up, but it's being protected. As interest rates go up, rents are reacting, they're going up hugely. And actually, I sent Rob some accounts yesterday in one of our property companies. We're still making what we were 3-4 years ago when interest rates were so much lower and gas and electric was so much lower, because rents are going up, because, all right, we put another building in the mix, a smaller building, but you know, we've made sure we've kept pace with you know, rent rises, and also we're just bearing down on the costs, the other costs in that business. So, you know, over time you realise you can manage most things as long as you've got capital and sort of room to move. You don't want to be over leveraged and, you know, have problems like that either.
I've never been a real worrier. I'm a bit of an optimist. I get really excited about things. I'm a bit of a dreamer. And I think that was good to start. And business can harden you to the point where you become skeptical of everything. And certainly now I'm a lot more skeptical of stuff. But I still try and maintain that if you're an entrepreneur, you can handle whatever comes your way. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to go bust, you're going to start again. And you're going to be even more motivated to start again. You're going to build something bigger, and then you're going to tell a story of how you went bust. Because, by the way, people go on podcasts and, yeah, I went bust 2 or 3 times, like it's a victory. So I just feel like the experience has given me the sense that, I wouldn't say, you can never say you're invincible, but you can handle what happens. No matter what happens, you'll be all right and you can handle it. And I worry even less, and I believe in myself even more that I can handle what's thrown at me, because loads of shit has been thrown at me.
Mark, how big is the portfolio now?
So portfolio value is nearly 40 million. I think we've got 360 tenants, well, 370 something now.
Point out some of the buildings, because we've got all around us.
So we've got 159 tenancies in this building, about 250 people living in this building.
This is Aspect?
This is Aspect, worth about 19 million. Then we've got another building over there, which is Scape. That's got, I think, just under 50 tenants in there, and a commercial on the ground floor. So there's a sort of big, sort of the City College are in there. They're running their training out of there. Actually, there's commercial under here as well. There's a supermarket under here, and an estate agency. Over that side, we've got another building with, I think, 40 tenants in it.
That's City Club?
So sort of similar-ish value to that one, maybe 3.5 million. Maybe that's worth more like 4. And then there's another building just the other side of it, which is 18 tenants, so smaller.
We also have a property management company, don't we? We're 1,250 tenants.
There's over 1,300 now tenants that are being managed.
Nice.
With over 10 staff in the office running that. And they manage all these buildings and a load of others, 1,300 different tenants they're managing, tenancies. Well. Yeah, there's houses, there's loads of, we've got a lot of other landlords in that letting agency as well, and they manage their properties as well.
Honestly, like, what is it like, stood on top of your biggest ever deal, overlooking your empire, 17 years ago as 25, 26-year-olds? Could you have really imagined this? This is a literal empire, this is legacy, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I didn't imagine this. I didn't think we'd have these in the town centre and sort of built them all, converted them all. This one we actually built ourselves. This was built in-house by Progressive. We have, Progressive Building Company, so I never imagined that would happen.
You don't seem that phased, Mark.
I don't know, it's sort of happened now, hasn't it?
Taller than Andreas's building.
Andreas Pignotti.
Someone who we know. Our building is taller than his.
How does it make you feel, Rob? This is an empire.
Yeah, I suppose it is an empire. I'm never really one for resting on my laurels. So...
You don't think this is fucking amazing?
I think there's more work to do, Harry. We've got more work to do. What, we're going to stop now?
I didn't say stuff, I just
No.
said to take it in.
Yeah, I mean, this building that Mark has developed almost with his bare hands, with the shit we had to go through, to see it, it is a huge beast. And so, yeah, it is, yeah, it's a beast. But you know what? We're still young, so we've still got a lot more to do. I'm not up for retirement. Mark might be a bit closer than me, but I'm not up for retirement.
I'm not up for retirement. I'm just up for paying less tax. and when
Well,
you know,
now Mark
well,
is a legend at working things like that out, but he's been very busy with these projects.
not now, but you know, when I'm in my 50s, you know, and you know, Freddie's a little bit older, and you know, got the ability. I just would love to be able to just stick it to them and clear off, go somewhere and pay no income tax. And you know, that just, you know, there's a big part of me that just feels completely raped. Yeah.
Yeah, Harry, I've never been really one for sitting back and smelling the roses. Maybe I should. I find it difficult. You know, as an entrepreneur, you're on to the next thing. You've got to be on to the next thing.
But how is this not a wonderful achievement? You were in that building there, several buildings there, hundreds of buy-to-lets, this building right here. This is an empire, this is legacy.
Yeah, I suppose two lads from Peterborough is pretty...
Yeah.
I don't think there's any... I get recognised a lot everywhere I go now because of the brand, and I obviously get recognised even more here, and I don't think there's that many famous people from Peterborough. So yeah, I suppose we've done something pretty cool.
You're subduing it, you're not really selling it.
Well, there's nothing to sell, it's just...
It's a great achievement.
It is, but
not?
it's normal.
1,300 tenants.
Yeah.
Hundreds of properties.
Yeah.
Just two dudes, started a company a few years ago.
Well, I mean, we've got, I worked out in the office and outsourcers, and this might be more now, 145 staff. That's an achievement. Keep them all in a job. Well, that's definitely a big achievement as well. You what?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all right, mate. Yeah.
Okay, right, final question, and then we're going to move on to the quickfire and cheeky round. Rob, you've been podcasting 7 years, over 7 years.
Happy birthday to us. 7 years, yeah.
Tell me some notable moments and what's that been like for you?
Well, I only started my podcast because I like to jump in on the new trend that could be big. I'm not just a flighty magpie chasing anything shiny, but if I can see an opportunity, I jump in. And I'd listen to Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss and people like that who were like, whoa, these guys have come out of nowhere and done massive podcasts. I should be doing it. And I think we've interviewed, about 20 billionaires now. I like interviewing a billionaire. We've obviously interviewed some really controversial people like Andrew Tate and Katie Hopkins. We interviewed Floyd Mayweather twice, Caitlyn Jenner, Jordan Peterson. So it's been a lot of fun. We've got Eddie Hall next week.
Can't wait, that'll be awesome, yeah.
Well, he's a big lad, isn't he?
So, yeah, it's been great. And Harry, as I told you, I started maybe 2 years ago saying to you, it's not just about the quality of the content that's important, the guests, it's about the experience. So we're on the roof of a massive development here in the rain doing a podcast, and they'll create a memory there. You know, I interviewed Chris Eubank, which was a weird thing, and we created memories there. So for me now it's about creating memories and not just trying to create great content, which is the most important, and not just trying to grow the brand, which is obviously important.
And Mark, you've been podcasting almost as long now. Any notable moments? And do you still enjoy podcasting now to when you started it 5-6 years ago?
Yeah, there's been loads of notable moments, hasn't there? I mean, in this building, a lot of them blowing around and.
Let's shout out Mark's podcast. What's it called?
Yeah, it's Mark My Words. Yeah.
Mark Homer, go check that out.
Yeah, Quentin Wilson was pretty
awesome,
cool,
yeah.
and
Nigel Farage.
Alfie Best, yeah, Nigel Farage. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Still doing the episodes. You sort of have to nudge me every now and again, Harry.
People love your hacks as well. Your most popular episodes are often like
people
how
love
to
it.
hack the air miles,
Yeah.
how to hack the insurance.
Yeah, the air miles is always good. I
Yeah.
mean, I still love all that. It's just my favourite. It's almost like, I don't know, a bit of it, I must admit, is maybe not productive, but it feeds this thing inside me, which is just like what is it, swapping a fiver for a tenner, that kind of stuff. It's just getting something for nothing, you know. Champagne lifestyle, lemonade wages. There's something beautiful about it. Yeah.
Do you ever get competitive between each other when, like, you interview someone and, like, you got more views compared to when you interviewed each other? Is there anything like that going on between you two?
It's very, very rare because we like different stuff, which is sort of what works. I do remember when I interviewed Nigel Farage. I think I got more people, more views on that one than Rob's.
We were under a shadow ban at the time.
And I think Rob had something to say, something along those lines about it.
Who introduced you to Nigel Farage?
But do you get jealous because he's interviewed Andrew Tate or someone like that and you haven't?
No, I don't want to go anywhere near him. No, I find it interesting and I'm happy for Rob, but the people like that aren't for me. Yeah.
The thing is, we're not really competitive because Mark wins when I win and I win when Mark wins. So there's not really any competitiveness. In fact, I can't really think of anything. And, you know, when Mark got his big views on Nigel, I was happy. I knew we were in a shadow ban. So, you know.
A bad workman always blames his tools.
I'll let Mark with that one.
Cool. Right. Should we do a quick fire, gentlemen?
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
Super quick fire, as quick as you can answer these questions, basically. So you've been in business together 17 years. Give me 17 quick fire lessons you've learned in 17 years in business.
Don't sweat the small stuff.
1. I'll do the counting.
Don't eat yellow snow. No. Play the long game. So the Chinese, as much as we hate them, they put a 30-year plan together. Play the long game.
Get good at sales and marketing.
Be very good at cost control.
Cool.
Always reinvest to grow your businesses. Don't just strip all the money out.
Have one eye on the next market and how you're going to have to flex and change your business to react to the new world.
Develop a lot of partnerships, relationships, joint ventures and business friendships.
Make sure that when you find people that you are going to go into business with or do stuff with, you test drive them first.
Hire really good people, especially your senior team, and never lose good people from your organisation.
Use things like tax or high inflation to your advantage. Go and borrow on big buildings. 10% inflation means your debt's being paid down by 10% per annum. Inflation has an inverse effect on debt. So use these things to your advantage.
Build your digital assets as well as your physical assets, like your personal brand, like social media, like podcasts, like YouTube, as well as the traditional stuff like property and business.
Back to the theme I mentioned a minute ago, if tax is high, use that as the tonic to make you really focus on utilising every single relief and every single little thing that the government does give you, because we don't all use all our reliefs every year, and surely this is a reason to do that.
5 more.
Don't forget that business is supposed to be fun and life is short, so don't be too busy hustling that you don't enjoy the journey.
Make sure you bring other people on your journey with you who have helped you, or your family, or maybe others in business, because it's great having friends and sort of being able to look back and having done things together, having great relationships along the way.
You cannot master what you do not measure, so test and track every data point in your business.
If you haven't got a sheet of paper or some other evidence, or you can't see that something has been done, it's not been done. So make sure that whenever you task someone with something, that they send you the report, or you get the spreadsheet, or you can see the thing they built, because you can usually assume if you can't see it or you haven't been sent it, my attitude is it's not been done.
1 more.
Invest in property, and if you're a business owner, invest in your own property. Like, for example, we have our own offices and our own training facilities, which have been saved loads of money on hotels. We own the buildings, so there's a could be smart with the rents and the leases. So invest in and own your own property.
Smashed it. Amazing. What are some of the biggest bullshit buzzwords and phrases you've learned in 17 years doing business that is just plain wrong?
It's easy. You can just set this business up and make money while you sleep.
Work from home.
It's a recent one.
Oh, you can just do it all hands-free.
What do you think about the product sells itself and the customer is always right?
I think the product doesn't sell itself. You have to go and bloody sell it, unless you're Steve Jobs and Apple. But that took him a lot of years to build up. And I don't think the customer is always right.
That's just horseshit.
I think sometimes the customer's wrong, and you need to tell them. And I think sometimes you need to fire your customer. And in some industries, there's too much consumer power.
Have you ever gone into business with someone who just turned out to be a rat piece of shit?
Yeah, there's loads of those. Of course. There's plenty of them.
And how do you deal with that situation?
Oh, you just get rid of them out of your sphere as quickly as possible. Sometimes you have to manage them out. You know, I've had this with builders in the past, one in particular, and you sort of manage them out over a period of time. That's usually the way to do it.
We've had a lot of partnerships. We have trainers in our training business. We have contractors, etc. So we've had a lot because we've had a lot of partnerships. I'm kind of immune to that now. I just accept it as part of the journey. In fact, we've probably trained up a third to a half of the competition in our own industry. I'm not going to mention any names, but yeah, we've had partners who have either been good and then just gone wildly crazy. I think of one in particular. Or we've had partners that just came in just to rape us for everything and made out they were tickling our testicles while having one finger up our arse. I can think of one.
One individual in particular, yeah.
But that will not be named because we don't want to give them airtime, Harry.
Could you have achieved what you have without each other?
No, I couldn't. Mark probably
No,
could.
absolutely not, no. Definitely not, no.
Why?
Because the sum of the pieces is greater than the individual components. 1 + 1 = 5. You know, Rob's got a load of stuff that I'm not. I'm got a load of stuff that he isn't. And when you put that together, you end up with a much greater thing. So no, I would never have been able to.
If you think about a business, there's two main elements of the financials. There's increasing the revenue and controlling the costs. Mark's brilliant at controlling the costs, and I'm pretty good at increasing the revenue. If it were just me, I'd be increasing the revenue and I'd probably be losing the margin. And if it were Mark, he'd have such a tight control on the costs, it might not grow as fast. So from a cash and growth perspective, that's a great... Mark finds things and slashes costs, which are like, wow, how did you even know that that was a thing? So, yeah, it's hard to do both. The last few months, through choice, I've got involved in a lot of cost control and renegotiating on contracts and creating new agreements and looking at commission splits and stuff. And I've taught myself it and learned to enjoy it, but it's against my flow, and it probably stops me from making money because you can't do both. You can't make and save at the same time.